And hopefully we got all the invites there. Hey everybody, let's see if we can get the invites going. And we have everybody we need in here. So we've got Omiki. Bear with me, everybody. Sorry, guys. Oh, Mickey. There we go. Trevor. There we go. There we go. And last one, we've got Joyce. There we go. Oh, hey there, Omiki, sweetheart. All right. Oh, hi, Joyce. Hi, Iona, sweet pea. And I think we were just waiting for Trevor. Okay. Thanks for everybody. I know you're sitting there waiting. There is me. Bear with me on this one. I'm trying to get my camera to stay up nicely. There we go. Hey, okay. So bearing with me just a little bit because what I need to do is I've got my camera flipped so that I can, of course, teach and show you what the board looks like and everything like that. And I don't have to write backwards. I've got my laptop up, but I can't actually see any of the comments. So I've just got my laptop up here. And I'm going to log in to this live especially and then be able to see your comments on my laptop rather than the bits and pieces. But I hope you guys are excited for a really, really wonderful lesson today and welcome. Although there's only a few of you, I know you guys are going to get a lot of good stuff out of this one. Alrighty, so let's have a look here. Here we go. I can see the comments now. Hi Joyce, hi Mickey. Yes, you found the class, perfect. Let me just make sure I bring this up and now I can see all the comments properly. All right. I appreciate you guys bearing with me while I'm getting all this technical stuff up. If it eventually does come up. There we go, and I'll pause that. And let's just make this a big screen. All right, we're gonna ignore the noise in the background because my child decided to make a full-blown breakfast while at exactly the time that, that we needed this to work out. Okay, and comments and plus. This gives Trevor a little bit of time to get to us. Bear with me on this silly stuff. Get that volume down. All right. Facebook is going really, really slow. There we go. There we go. I have the comments now, and I can see everything. Okay, so perfect. This class today is all about the 9 cycles of the growth of your consciousness. All right, so why is the 9 cycles of your consciousness so actually important to understand? Well, I want you to think, right? You know when you have babies, some of you don't have kids, others, most of us that are actually watching do have kiddos. And I want you to think, what would happen if you had a baby, right? And you had absolutely no freaking clue what is going to be happening. It causes a lot of confusion. It means that you stumble a hell of a lot more in terms of finding your feet and understanding what to do with this little bundle of giggly joy that poops all the time, right? So with the human race, understanding the cycle of the growth of a human, you know, how you go from a baby, what happens when you're in a baby stage? Well, you've got teething, you've got thingies, that what to watch out for, what not to watch out for, right? What to let go, what to embrace. And because we know these cycles from babies to toddlers to teenagers, to kids to teenagers into adulthood, we're able to prepare and really kind of get through it a lot more smoothly than if we were just kind of in the blind. And this is exactly what we are going to be learning about today. Because throughout your entire existence, whether it be in this lifetime, the next lifetime, or previous lifetimes before, you are always going through a consciousness growth cycle. Now, having your awareness of it just means that from here on out, you're going to be able to prepare far more during this spiritual awakening journey. Right? So it's going to be great. Alrighty. Do feel free. I do have the comments up here as much. Oh, hey, Trevor. Oh, I'm so glad that you were able to make it. I'm not quite sure how delayed the comments are on here, but I will, of course, keep checking as much as I possibly can. So, if you would like to just make sure you have everything ready for this, you are going to be responsible for taking your own notes. I am definitely going to be writing some things up based on all of these classes, but as you guys know me, it probably won't be available for like until like next year anyway, because I hate doing admin. But anyway, so please have your pen and paper or your laptop or whatever you need to take some notes to help you remember what's going on. Or by all means, once this lesson is finished, you are more than welcome to download it or come back and rewatch it, although it will be deleted after 30 days. So I definitely recommend, if you do want your copies, to just download it so you can go back to it when you're ready. Okay. So, also have some water as well, because you are joining in on the lesson. Not only are you getting this information, but you are also getting my energy, and that means that you are going to start to accelerate. It means you are going to get dehydrated a little bit faster than you normally would, just because the energy is being used so rapidly during this time. Alrighty, so starting on, and I'm going to change my pen here because I definitely want you to see what's going on. The 9 cycles, and I want you to think 9, let's start with the number 9. In numerology, 9 is both the beginning and the end of a cycle. And when I was looking at the cycles of the growth of consciousness, I was like, isn't that convenient that it would have literally 9. How I'm going to explain this is we're going to go through each cycle one by one, but overall I'm going to be using the analogy of a seed. And as we are using that analogy of a seed, we're going to try to relate it to our own personal experiences, not only on the physical basis of what you were going through as a kiddo and up until your adult life, but also kind of mentally what you're going through every single day at this very moment in time as well. So the first cycle, number 1, is I want you to imagine you are a seed and you are being planted in the ground. Seed stage. Okay. And kind of think of everything that is around when a seed is planted. And again, bearing in mind that you are this seed. So firstly, it's quite dark. You know, when you are planted, you're in darkness. Because our consciousnesses can't be physically planted in the dirt, what does it feel like to be in the darkness? Well, I know my own personal experience. There's a lot of confusion. When you cannot see what's going on around you, and especially in a conscious way. When I say I can't see consciously, it just means that the emotions are really confusing. I may not know where to go, what to do. I may not know what the next steps is that I need to do in my life, because fear is quite apparent. And just think of a little seed in the dirt, right? It's got bugs going all around it. It's got worms. It's got little microbes. And as a seed, it's never seen this before. Never seen this before. But when the seed was being created, it was in its little shell. It was with its parent, its mother, at the time. Whether the seed is a tree or whether it's a flower, it was nestled in its mum, and it was feeling so nice. But then it fell to the ground, right? And it started its own journey and its own cycle. And when it went into the ground, it was like, holy shit! I'm not in the cradled petals of my mother anymore. I'm surrounded by things that crawl, and I can start to feel all the crawly things, and I'm looking around and it's just dark. There's no light, there's no nothing. So it's confusing, and you get a little scared, right? And I want you to think to yourself, how often during your life do you feel like darkness is all around? You know, like you're confused, you don't know where else to go, you don't know how to get out of the situation because you definitely feel stuck. Feeling stuck like a seed because it has no legs to move, you know? And how often, and these kinds of thoughts naturally come in when we are at a new transition within our life, right? When we have to start discarding an old cycle where we were cradled and comfortable, and we are starting something new. And it can be scary, and you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. So that is the first stage. And again, kind of re-emphasizing on it, in terms of when you are going through a conscious evolution, it is like you were being a newborn baby. You know, you're thrown out into the world and you're just like, what the hell's going on, right? And as an adult now going through this, that is usually the time come the new moon or the full moon, where your energy is so high to start a new cycle, and you're just like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Alrighty, so that's stage one. Stage two. Stage two is where you start to see yourself, or you start to focus on yourself. So stage two is self. Now we can put down self-care, or also self-focus. I'm like, how did I just spell that wrong? Focus, focus, there we go. Or self-love as well. Hopefully all three of those. Okay. Now, what does that actually look like? Again, using our seed analogy. So you're a seed and you're plunged into the darkness in stage one here. You're scared, you're confused, and so forth. But the thing is, you can't really move around. And because you're feeling so lost and confused and everything, the only choice, because looking outwards, right? And I want you to think about this. When you're here now and you're in a place of fear, it's because you constantly are looking outside. So when you hit stage two, that's your own consciousness going, hey, wait a second. Looking out there isn't working. I gotta look in here, right? And you are called, your energy at that point is calling you to focus on yourself. Just like how a seed has all of its nutrients packed into its little thing. A baby chicken, you know, the egg, it has the yolk and everything that is going to sustain it until it's ready to break out of its shell, right? Same thing with a seed. It has everything it needs, and what it needs to do is focus on itself. Because when you focus on yourself, that's when the confusion becomes understanding. That's when the darkness becomes light. That's when the fear becomes peace. You know, and that's when you feel stuck, you start to feel more calm and comfortable in where you are. Now, one of the things that is happening within this period of conscious evolution is that many people are still stuck in stage one. And this is why you see a lot of people like myself, a lot of people who give guidance, who do readings and so forth, why we are constantly emphasizing on self-love and self-care. Because you are trying, your whole entire being is trying to move you on to stage two. Because when you get into stage two, and you start to use what is inside of you to grow yourself, just like a seed does, just like a baby chicken does, just like any egg or embryo will do, right? It uses everything, all the amounts of energy it has inside of itself in order to grow. So what does self-care, self-focus, or self-love look like while you're on this while you're on this journey? So self-care is to literally look after yourself like you would look after a baby. Anybody else's baby or anything that you love. You know, so many people they will say that, oh my gosh, well, I don't have time for self-care. I don't have time to focus on myself or love myself because I've got this doing and I've got that doing and everything. And it's like, no, that's not true. Because at the end of the day, so many people, they have the time at the drop of a hat to focus and care for something that they love, whether that be their own child, whether that be their PS4 or their PS5, their computer or their pets, you know, or their parents or their friends. Whatever it is outside of themselves, they can drop anything they're doing and care for that individual or that person, place, or thing. But again, when it comes to themselves, they have a hard time, right? So the excuse that I don't have time or that I can't do it, it is simply just an excuse because stage 2 requires this. Now, self-care can also, you know, it does look like, of course, the surface level things like taking a bath and relaxing yourself and so forth. But it also means you do introspection. You start to literally find your comfort by doing things that you notice that you enjoy doing to get out of the cycle of fear and looking outside of yourself. And self-love comes in when you are actually looking at yourself with gratitude and appreciation, thanking yourself for taking the time to find your understanding, to find your light, to find your peace, your comfortable, and to find your own comfort, right? And be you. Now, once you have done that, by the way, I'm hoping that the comments are still okay. If you guys are just listening, that's cool. But just know that if you have made a comment, I only see like 4 of them. Okay, so let's go on to step 3. Now that we are producing self-love, self-care, and all of the things we need, what actually comes after that? You can probably guess. If you think like, okay, once I've given myself enough self-love and self-care, you know, and you've been feeding yourself, using your energy for all that fantastic goodness that's in there, well, this is where your awareness increases or expands. Now, whenever your awareness increases or expands, that is your consciousness going through a growth spurt. Now, when your consciousness goes into a growth spurt, it means that you are basically, so if we were the egg right here in the seed, right, and everything is dark and scary around us because we're like, ah, screw it. And so we focused ourselves inside where it was like, okay, I'm going to use what I need to use inside of me. Okay? With that, well, you're no longer just a little seed this size, you're now this big. So, of course, because you're now bigger, you're able to take in all more of this information that previously, before, you had no knowledge of. Now, because you're able to take in more information, it means that you are buzzing and vibrating at a much higher level, much faster, right? Now, because you're vibrating at such a higher level, it's far more information that you're now needing to process all at once in this very moment. And I want you to remember, there is absolutely no such thing as time, right? There is only this ever now moment. You can either choose to take in small amounts of information, or you can use your entire awareness to take in larger amounts of information. There is a continuous stream of energy and information that holds everything. All things are running simultaneously. It is not about, oh, I need to discover something new. It's already there. You know, everything, absolutely everything is always here. It's whether we have the radius to take it in or not, right? And this is what is happening during step 3. You are taking in far more information within your radius or within your core and your center. Now, when you take in that much information, I want you to think it's like you're giving yourself self-love, right? And that's a physical action that you've taken. Well, now this is where you're processing that information. So at times, what it feels like during your evolutionary process is it feels very still. Like You don't have an urge to move at this very moment, but you're not going back, you're just absorbing. Or like having, if you were a phone, like plugging in your battery and you're just sitting there, just waiting and observing. And with each moment, you're just getting more and more and more out of it. So it's wonderful in that way. Okay, everybody's listening. Yeah, you're just listening. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Sometimes it's just like, is it a technical thing? Am I being a thing? But okay, we're good. Okay. So that is a pretty easy stage. Now, when you do hit stage 3 of absorbing information, the fears, so troubleshooting kind of thing, the fears, are still literally, so here we are, we're absorbing information and we're just getting bigger, but all of the darkness, so we're going to depict that by scary little bugs and stuff like that over here. Right. See, don't get me wrong. I know this is what you're really here for. You're here to watch all of these cute little bugs and drawings that are going on. I know what it is. You're like, I don't really care about the lesson. I just want to see this part. Okay, so when you're in this part, all the little bugs and all of the fears and all of the things that were holding you back or that were trying to get to you in stage 1, right? Now, because you are focused on just being calm and still and absorbing, they're going to want to try to get at you, right? Your energy is growing. You are looking like ooh, that's a pretty tasty consciousness level there, or a little snack that they're going to be looking for. Sorry, I lost my notes. Let's get there. Okay. So at this point, this is where you're going to need to, once you actually start getting these guys coming back to you, this is where you're going to start to feel a little uncomfortable again, right? Now, when I say uncomfortable, it's because you are aware of the fear, you're aware of the darkness, you put the time and the effort to give yourself self-love. Now you're just waiting, but when anything is still, anything in this universe, when it is still, something is going to want to come and clean that up, right? So if a human vessel passes away, if it dies, what does it do? It's still. It doesn't move, it doesn't do anything. And that is literally why these little these little bugs. I'm actually going to be making this into a recording, so I'm like, I don't need to cuss too much, although it's what I do. And as soon as you are still for a part, that's what calls them in, right? Because they're going to want to come and eat whatever is not being used or discarded. So when these guys come in and when you start to feel the fear coming back in, that's when you know you're ready for going on to stage 4. Now, stage 4 is when you have the need to move. And when I say the need to move, I don't necessarily mean on a physical basis where you're just like, okay, I'm going through this stage and this step, and now I've got to move state or country or province or whatever. I don't mean physically having to move in that kind of way. Although you may physically want to like go work out or go for a walk or something, like that's up to you. But I mean physically move in terms of your thought process, right, and your patterns. Because you no longer are thinking like a seed. Your consciousness is expanded, so now you need to understand how to move as a bigger life form, right? The same way a baby can only sit on its bum for so long before they have the need to crawl. And then from crawling, they have the need to get up and stand and walk, right? Because they were able to take in and absorb more information, and crawling's just not going to cut it anymore. They need to get from the living room to the kitchen ASAP because they know if they get there in that time, they probably won't get a treat or a cookie or something, right? But if they're a baby sitting there, they're going to lose out on the opportunity. So that's why they're going to get in there really quick. So the feelings to move. Now, also, what comes with that is the feeling to discard. Anything weighing you down. Oftentimes when we hit stage 4, this is when we start to lose people in our circles, right? So, and I definitely know that you guys have went through this where you're just like, wow, I'm not vibing with this person anymore, or their stagnation is calling in all of those little bugs, right? And all those fears, and because you can now identify them and feel them, you're like, no, it doesn't feel good anymore. And this is where you're like, okay, if I can't get rid of the bugs, then I'm just going to move out of the picture, right? All right, just make sure I've got this here. I'm just going to refresh that so I can make sure I have all those comments. Okay. So anyway, so yes, this is where you start discarding anything that is weighing you down. This is also the time when you start embracing what feels good. Now, this is equally as important as this one, because a lot of the times when we are going through the spiritual awakenings and everything, and as I mentioned, a lot of people get stuck in stage 1, the seed stage, where they're so weighed down with fear. And when you're so kind of like, when you're looking all around and everything's so scary, it can be so hard to get into the cycle of moving forward, of literally letting go and so forth. And it's harder at that time to get the courage and the strength to literally to focus on yourself. But once you get to stage 4, it gets much easier to embrace the new cycles. It gets much easier to move forward, because at the end of the day, you've done so much work to get to this point. And your tolerance level, which was this high for fear, then starts to drop really low, where you're like, you know what? I can't be bothered anymore. So if I need to discard you from my life or discard this cycle from my life, do it, because I'm happy to embrace what feels good, which is all about really the consciousness evolution. We follow what feels good, because that will lead to our ultimate growth. Okay, so that's step 4. Now, once you start feeling and embracing what feels good, we get on to stage 5. Now, stage 5 is getting through the blockages. Now, what do I mean by getting through a blockage? So let's recap a little bit, right? Stage 3, we were at, okay, our awareness has increased. We start to know more things. And let's give an example. Let's say that you've been in this, like the seed stage cycle, where you were working in a job, you were at home life and everything, let's say you're in a relationship, you got your kids and everything like that, and it's just a regular day in, day out cycle, right? You go to a job to make the money, you come home, you take care of the household, you spend time with the family, but at the same time you're not quite very happy, because internally your consciousness hasn't grown, you're still in the seed stage, and it's ready to move on to self-love. Now, how that looks in when you're just like, you know what, I'm ready to move on into self-love. It means that you go to work, but you come home and you may not do everything that you need to do for the family, because you're like, I'm burnt out and I need to do what I need to do for me. So you start taking care of yourself, you know, and you start sleeping more. You start going on more walks. Maybe you start meditating a little bit more, right? Trying to find your peace and calm and get rid of the fear. Now, as you're doing that, you're just like, holy sugar plums. During my meditations, I'm feeling things. I'm discovering new parts about myself. You know, I'm doing a little introspection. I'm understanding why I've been doing these patterns I've been doing, right? And then because of that awareness, you're like, oh my gosh, okay. Although you're still continuously, while you're doing this, you're still kind of in the same cycles. You still go to work, you're still in your relationship, you may be still bored, kind of doing things, but you're finding the joy in taking care of yourself, right? So your awareness is now there. Now, when we're going into then you're into step 4, where you're like, okay, I'm now aware of what I really like to do. I'm aware of the calm, and But you're like, but the cycle that I'm in right now isn't promoting it. I need more time to myself. I need more time to discover all of this cool ass shit that is being presented to me, that I know about me right now. So this is where that vibration of like, I know I need more time for me, or I know I need to make a change. That's step 4 where you're like, I got that feeling. Step 5 though is, and many have heard me say this, it's like the baby bird syndrome, where you have all the feathers that you need to fly. You have everything. The sky is blue, the winds are just right for you, but now you have to actually take that first leap. So this is like the leap of faith. And the reason why I say it's the leap of faith is because whenever you have to start a new cycle that is going to be beneficial to your own growth, it can be scary. And that is what the blockage is. Because you have been in this cycle of work, home, blah, 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 blah. You haven't enjoyed it, but it is your last comfort zone. So you know what's going to happen. And the subconscious mind is going to give you a level of safety because you know what's going to happen. Even though it's a cycle that may have made you bored, unhappy, or whatnot, but it's safe, technically. So that is initially the blockage that you're going to have to try to get over whenever you're changing a new cycle. And a lot of the times, this is that part of the cycle where people will, they get scared. And because they get scared of making that change and not knowing what's going to happen, they stay in the same cycle. And because they stay in it, then they stop looking after themselves again. Right? The cycle will start to become so overwhelming because you're not getting through that blockage that you fall right back into it. And that's where apathy comes in. Like literally the emotion of like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. You know, that's when people start to feel really shitty again. You know, where they were like, I was doing so good, but I don't know, I just fell off and now I'm back doing things. But here's the thing. If you've gotten to the step 5 and you've fallen off that wagon and you're just like, oh, I can't do it anymore. Oh. and you go back in, you know that saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Well, yes, because your awareness has increased so much from this one point that was there. So now you're no longer that little point, that little guy. And if you were that little guy, and you were to stay in the same cycle, it's like, okay, well, I'm not as sensitive. But since you have literally expanded out all this much, it means now you have all of this sensitivity to deal with. So if you're trying to fit back into this cycle right here, it's going to be really hard. And like I say, I'm like, try to fit back into a pair of jeans that you had when you were 15. Like, when you were 15, oh, all right, maybe it's a little snug, but now you try to fit into that, I'm like, I can get it up to my knee. I can't do it because I will literally break those jeans like nobody's business. And it will hurt. I will have burns. I will have tension cutting off. Everything, as we know, it just won't work, right? And that's where you start to feel so much more. A lot of people will fall into depression at this point because they are suppressing themselves. They are trying to fit into that old cycle where they've grown too big and it's not going to work anymore. So this is why it's very important to take that leap of faith. And it also comes within a lot of trust in yourself. Now, and that is literally, when I look back at when I was in stage 5, I'm really comfortable with the stages now and I do them on a regular basis, so I know what to do. But when I was in stage 5, how to get over that, I was like, you know what? I went through the darkness, I did my self-love, I have my awareness now, and I know I need to move, so now I gotta trust in myself, right? And as you trust in everything that has come before you, that's gonna make it so much easier to get over that whatever blockage is trying to get you back into that old cycle. Okay, so What happens though after you trust yourself and you're like, okay, I'm in the new cycle. I can do this. Well, then comes number 6. Stage 6. Stage 6 is now all about experience. Now, what is the experience like? And again, I'm going back to the baby bird analogy here. The first thing that happens is you feel scared. Or if not scared, but it's kind of like a oh shit, can I do this kind of feeling. But also there's excitement in there. If you notice that I'm spelling anything wrong, that's just because I don't care about spelling. Okay. So you're also scared and you're also excited. And now this is where also those little bugs want to start to come in again. Right? This is where the fear wants to get into you. Now, when you get there, what they are responding to is the fact that you feel a little scared or a little apprehensive. But the thing is, that is so very normal when anybody is starting a new cycle or new pattern. Just think when your first day at a new job or your first day at a new school or your first day doing anything new, there's like going on there. But how to do that is you simply keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, these suckers will only stay if you remain in that place for too long. Now, as you start to experience, that's when the growth happens. Every time that you have a new experience, whatever that experience is during this new pattern that you've made. Now, let's go back to our analogy of you were at work and so forth like that, and you just came into that realization that like, no, I've got to make a change. So what was the change that you made with this? Maybe you're like, you know what? I know that my job isn't fulfilling me, right? It's taking up way too much of my time. I can't get enough. I need more time for myself. I focused on myself and I realized, wow, I'm actually like super empathic and I'm really good at reading things and reading people, and I'm really creative. I love making broomsticks. For whatever reason, I love making broomsticks. And everybody that comes around with me, they love my broomsticks, and so many people offer to purchase my broomsticks. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell my job that I'm cutting down to part-time hours, and I'm going to use the rest of my time to make a broomstick, right? That's you getting over that blockage. Now the experience is, okay, I've done this. Now I'm going to devote my time into what feels good, and I'm going to make broomsticks. I'm going to like literally go out and do my meditations and my walks, and I'm going to do everything that makes me happy. And as you're doing that, that's when you start to move forward and you start to grow. So if this was the seed before, now through the experience, you've got another ring. Like a tree ring, anyway. And now you have far more. Every time you take a step in that direction of happiness, you are expanding your ring. But this time, your ring is being expanded in a place, so I'm just going to put this on here. Your ring is again expanded, but this is going to be a ring of joy, of happiness, of growth, of wonder, right? Many people, whenever they take a shift or a change, and I'm going through the cycles, because you are totally responsible for all of the things that you are experiencing. Now, people will grow regardless. In their consciousness, they will grow regardless. Just like you cannot stop a human baby from growing, or anything that is alive from growing, it will do it. It's whether you are growing fast or whether you are growing slowly. If you are making decisions in fear, like again, people who can't get out of stage 1 over here, right? it means that they still grow, but they grow very slowly because the fear takes up so much of their energy that they don't have the opportunity to have a fast-growing bit. Kind of like if you have a child who is totally malnourished, you know, who is starving, they're going to be really small. They're going to be really just like frail. It doesn't stop them from physically getting height because that's the natural progression, but they are going to be very, very, very small compared to a child that was able to get the proper nourishment, the proper food. They will grow very big, very strong, very healthy, and have a far better outlook to life than a child that was malnourished. And that's literally what is happening. So as you are approaching step 6, or in step 6, and you're experiencing and you're making positive moves for yourself by understanding your growth cycle and what you need in that time, your growth is going to equal out to these things. You are growing into the happiness rather than growing slowly but constantly seeing fear, right? In that sense. And that's why it's so important to always stay happy and do the things that you want to do so that you have the best growth options possible in your consciousness. So, after you have made the experience of step 6, now you are in step 7, which is where you are building. Whatever that building is, you are building. So you have the broom, right? So now you're at the stage where you're like, okay, I work part-time over here, I'm making brooms because it makes me happy, and I'm doing all these things, and because I'm happy, my kids are getting happier, my relationship, well, that depends on that's another lesson, but you're going off and you're being far more productive, far more happy, doing what it is that you need to do. The more happiness that you have, you funnel that energy into making your brooms because it makes you really happy. Now, you're building, because instead of making 1 or 2 brooms, oh, well, now you got a little bit of a side business going on, you know? You're now shipping out 10 custom-made brooms, which, yeah, it may take you a little bit of time to do, but the work is so quality and so wonderful, and it's got so much love infused in it, so much positive energy, that they are flying off the shelves. Now, as they are flying off the shelves, I'm like writing the analogy, I don't need to write the analogy. As they are flying off the shelves, you are now going, you know what? I really hate my other part-time job that I used to do. I'm going to get rid of that one. And you start focusing and building full-time on your own broom business, right? And you're doing it because you love it. Because you love it, it grows faster. And because you continuously do it, because you'd be making brooms anyway, right? It means that there is a constant supply being generated, and it all came from you, right? Now, what does building feel like? Well, it does feel like hard work. It does, right? But it's also fulfilling. Or you do get a sense of fulfillment as you start to do that. Because again, a lot of people, when they're going through this, they think that success is the physical or the material success. And that's why so many people, regardless of it, let's say they have all of the material success that society puts on you, but they are feeling so drained and empty inside, or not fulfilled, even if they have every physical need taken care for them, there's still this searching, this longing, and this emptiness. And it is because they're not building within themselves, they're not building the things that they love, they're just building off of fear, right? And that's where you don't get fulfillment. But when you're at this stage, there's this beautiful sense of fulfillment because you are building within yourself. Right? So now you've got a full-time broom business going on. It makes you happy. Things are going on there. And you're able to kind of see and feel and kind of like, all right, we're getting good there. Now, step 8 is where you start to get comfortable. Or stable, or stabilizing. Comfortable or stable. So going back to our broom analogy here, you got your business going, you're feeling good, and you're just like, all right, I'm building brooms, I'm doing everything that I need to do, and everything's kind of going good, and I'm like, all right, everything's fine. And you now have completed your new cycle. Complete. Now at this point, you can just bask in the comfort, and hopefully you're just enjoying yourself. That's always a wonderful stage to be at. I very much so enjoy this state of evolution. Now, I'm giving you very physical descriptions of it in terms of a broom making business, but on a conscious, emotional kind of level as well. This is where it's kind of like, you're sitting in the breeze, you know, having a virgin margarita on a beach, and you're just kind of chill and you're relaxed and you're nice and comfortable at that time. Now, however long you stay in that place of comfort is totally dependent on yourself. It depends on what you have been doing, what the new cycle that it was that you created for yourself, because I know not everybody's doing brooms. It could just be, it doesn't even have to be material for you. It could just be literally inside of yourself where you're just like, I've done a lot of hard inner work. I've done a lot of these things. I'm just feeling cool where I am in my consciousness at this very moment. All right? Which will lead you on to the final step. Now, the final step is both the end and the beginning. We have 9. Now, this is where you hit the ceiling. Hitting the ceiling, or also known as you have reached the top level or the top of the level or cycle. So this is where, this is a great time, and also the one where when you start feeling these feelings, you'll know that, oh shit, stage 1 is about to come back again, right? Because you need to move. During this, when you're at this cycle, you are usually still comfortable. But, well, no, I can't say that you're comfortable. You start to get out of your comfort zone, or you're starting to not feel so comfortable. Oh, that's not an I, that's a 0. That's an O. And these are 2 E's. All right. So you're starting to, it's like, okay, going back to our broom analogy. Okay, so we are within the brooms, we have our business and everything, but you're kind of like, you know what though? I have made so many brooms, and the cycle starts to become repetitive. And at this point, when things start to become repetitive, that's when you start to become a little bit more stagnant, or you're not liking your comfort zone anymore. And slowly, our little fear bugs start to come back. All right? And these little suckers start to come back because you're not totally satisfied. The fulfillment that you were getting back in step 7 and 8 is you're no longer fulfilled, because again, you have reached, if we go into our bits here, you have reached the outer layer of this cycle. So let's say brooms is our cycle here. There's only so many brooms you could make before you get bored. There's only so, like if you're watching a movie, there's only so many times you can watch that movie, even though it's your favorite, before you're just like, yeah, I can't watch it anymore. It doesn't mean that you no longer like the movie or that you no longer like brooms. It just means that you've reached the capacity within yourself of the interest where this brings you joy. Because the joy emotion is, or the fulfillment emotion, or whatever the positive emotion is no longer fulfilling, well, that starts to turn into the fear the longer you try to stay within this cycle. All right? So that's why things start to be repetitive, things start to get a little bit like, but it's at the beginning. Also at times, this is when people start to feel less than. Now the reason they start to feel less than is because you are still growing, right? And if you want to stay, because again, let's go back to this here. Let's say this is our outer level, right? Well, now we're like, okay, well, now we need to go through another growth spurt, because just like a baby in the womb, where it's like it's getting too big for this space. You're getting too big for that cycle that you've been in. So to get to the next cycle, you're going to need to move one more time. And the next cycle, you're thinking like, oh, I'm so big. Well, now I want you to imagine that this is now the new seed. And this is where we go back into step one. Right? New seed. And this is why you feel less than at that time. Right? And because again, you're right back into being a new seed in a new cycle, because now you got to do the whole cycle once again. Alrighty. Oh shit, do I have more comments? No? Okay. So once that starts to come, and once you start to feel like, ooh, a lot of people, they'll start to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm scared and I don't know what to do again. Going back into step one. And now the fear wants to come around. You've got more of those little bugs that are coming in there. Those little fear bugs that are going to try to eat you and do all that stuff, and until you can start this one more time. My own personal experience with this as well is when I first started to break away and I let go of my old business and everything, I followed that path where I'm like, I like giving advice. I like sharing my experiences as to what I discovered about myself. And that advice seemed to really help people, so I continued on with it. I actually thought at that point, I was like, okay, well, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Until I found, ooh, no, I'm now outgrowing this cycle. So I had to start a new cycle, which was I started painting, right? And now, as I've completed that cycle, now I'm starting to go into recorded lessons again, and doing all of these things with you guys and making it more consistent and so forth. So this is my new cycle that I'm actually starting, and it's starting with you guys today, right? So I'm hoping to go through all of these stages at the same time myself. Okay, so I'm going to turn you around now. So I can physically see you guys. There we go. There we go. All right, now that I can actually see you. So we've got 10 more minutes, and I want to open this up to your questions and queries at this moment. What are your thoughts on the cycles that you were going through? Is there anything that you would like me to re-explain while we have the time? Throw your questions in there now, and let's have some extra deeper understanding that's going through to it. Whilst I'm waiting for your questions, if there is any, I'll just leave off with this as well. You know, understanding these things just means that you can prepare for it. The more you are within your awareness of what's about to be, right, the more you're able to flow around it, and the more you're able to flow around those obstacles in your course that's there. So many people, like I mentioned, they get caught in stages. Let's have a look here. The primary stages that people get caught in are stage 1 and stage 1 and stage 9, really. And those are really the hardest ones. I know this is going to be backwards now. Those really are the hardest times to go through, because that's when the fear starts to become at its highest peak at that time. But what we know from that is just because we are staying still. Whatever we do, keep on moving when you are in those stages. The fear is going to try to get you to stay stagnant, to stay still, you know, because kind of like thinking, are you able to eat your food if it was moving all over your plate? Of course not. You know, for one, I know as beings, we would find that really gross. But two, it's very difficult to eat something that is on the move, right? And that's what I want you to think of. If you are constantly moving in whatever direction, as long as it is forward, you know, within your happiness and within your joy, success is always going to come because of that. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that it's always going to be exactly the way that you thought, because there's endless possibilities, there's endless timelines that will be within your benefit as you're moving forward. However, you will move forward. Will you stumble every now and then? Sure, everybody does, right? But you get back up and you keep on moving, right? So let's get through stages 1 and 9 as much as we can. Joyce, you say, for me, the hard part is finding out what I'm good at doing. That will help me financially and still be fun for me. Right, to help with that, get your eraser. So we have fun and we have finance, right? Both of these things are minds. Get a different pen out here. Both of these things, our minds are just like, what do we do, right? What do we choose? We have to either choose fun or finance, and we don't. What I'm going to suggest, or the most successful way that you can do this, is to get rid of this one. That, if you do this, Joyce, I tell you, seek what it is that you find fun. First and foremost, don't even think about the money part. Because as soon as you start thinking about money, this is in an old cycle, right? This is in a new cycle, right? Because most people only know how to make money the way they did in the past. You know, they know what their parents did, they know what their teachers at school told them, they know what authorities and bosses told them, right? But bosses want you to stay in an old cycle because it means that they get to enjoy their happiness off of your energy and your expense. It's true. How many people open up a business going, yeah, I want to work 50 hours a week. I want employees, and I want them to also work so I can continue working. Hell no. Anybody that's ever opened a business and who has employees gets an employee so that they can eventually go sip margaritas on the beach while they're virgin margaritas, while their employees are doing all the work so that they can enjoy their happiness. And that's why it's so important to get rid of even the thought of money in the first place and seek your happiness. Because as you do that, new cycles, new progression, new enjoyment will come. And then once you have this happiness, it equals finance, it equals more love, it equals more happy relationships with other people who are vibing. It equals fulfillment. So I'm going to put a glass here that is full, you know. It equals so many things when you literally say screw you to literally just only having money. Because it's already there, right? It's already there. Okay. Amiki, I'm glad you explained the restart of cycles because I saw myself completing the cycles, but I felt like I would get stuck again, so that made me fearful. But knowing this is great, just keep moving. Yes! Right? I know what you mean. I literally would stop myself from doing things. And I actually recognized that I had a fear. One of the reasons my blockages that stopped me from moving forward is I had a fear of my own power. I had a fear because with my cognizance and with my vision, I could see how my responsibilities, because with great power comes great responsibility, right? I saw all the attention that I'd be getting. I saw how much that, and I got scared of all the pressure. I got scared because I was still at that seedling stage, right? And I was being shown the visions of what I would be like out here, but knowing that that's how many cycles away, right? But from me looking at this point from here, I got scared. Because I'm like, man, I don't want to have to be writing 10 billion emails a day. I don't want to have to do that. I just want to go and do my own thing and have fun and do that. So what I did was, because I was shown that vision, I stopped doing a lot of things. That's actually one of the reasons why sometimes you won't see me on Facebook for ages, or in the past that you wouldn't see me, or I would get overwhelmed with messages and then all of a sudden nobody would get a response from me because I'm like, I gotta go. But now I realize though, I'm like, I was showing my potential because that's part of what I do, but I still need to go through all of these layers, because as I go through all of these layers to get there, it won't feel overwhelming. It'll feel really good. It'll be really fine, you know. And it's the same thing for yourself. There's Miki. Like, as you are moving forward, as you move forward, it's always going to be this beautiful stepping stone, right? The next level is not out of your reach. It's exactly what you can manage and what you can handle in the moment, right? We just got to be willing to go in there. Trevor, you say, can definitely recognize these stages in various areas of my life. This lesson has been a helpful expansion of the old 4-stage system I used to base my experiences around. Like a video game, deeper understanding leads to new breakthroughs. Thank you. You're very welcome. It really does, doesn't it? Because when you understand, you're like, oh shit, I can prepare for that. I know what I need to do right here. And you can be a master gamer in your own game of life because you're making it. And life is beautiful. Alrighty. So it is 1 p.m. Thank you so much for joining me on this lesson. This is, of course, going to be available for you to download, for you to watch again or rewatch. Like I say, it will be deleted after about 30 days though. So get it in while you can. However, I am, of course, going to be having these. I'm going to download the file and make sure they're available too. So if later on down the line you're like, oh shit, I would really like a recap, but you didn't have a chance to download it, don't worry. I will no doubt have the file as well that I can resend you. If you have signed up for Tuesday's class, I really look forward to seeing you there as well. Every single week we are going to be going through, every single class is going to be different. You're very welcome, Joyce. I'm so happy this helps. We are going to be going through different kind of things like this. They won't be the same. It is going to be very situational based as well, or what kind of things, where the energy is flowing. However, over a long period of time, you'll see how they do connect to each other at the same time. But I really look forward to seeing you in Tuesday's class. Again, that's Tuesday at 6 p.m. And we will probably go back on Facebook as well. In the meantime, if you did enjoy it, I really encourage you to share the experience with others. And hey, the more people we have coming in, it just means the more effort I put into these as well, which I can actually start writing up some coursework and everything like that, because this is my transitional stage, right? You know, going the broom kind of thing, the part-time to making it full-time, and I would love to make this more of a definite full-time gig, but I need some more participants. So let's see what we can do. All right, I will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I love you to pieces. And take care of yourselves. Mwah. Bye, honey buns.